You shouldn't gamble unless you're betting on yourself. Now, when you look at any casino game, and I'm going to take here a very popular one, the roulette, and you look at it, and if you place a bet on a number, and if you win, it will multiply by 36. Now, this sounds great in theory. You look, oh, there's 36 numbers, so it's fair. However, there's not 36 numbers. There's from 1 to 36, and then there's the 0. It may seem inconsequential, but over a long enough period of time, with enough people betting, even if it's just a slight edge, the house not only will always win, but will win a lot. And that's one of the reasons why casinos per square meter are the most profitable business. And this is why, excuse me here, when you look at it, why most of the games there are slot machines with all these themes and colors and animations and whatnot is to distract you from the fact that if you bet on them, it's not, times 36 when there's 37 numbers. It's more like times 30 or less. It's the odds become even worse. Now, I'm not here to talk about gambling, but to recognize that a lot of people take the same mindset and the same fearful approach to everything in life. And you hear from parents, from friends, from really people around you when you have a different idea to start a business, to even if you just kind of throw it out there, even if you're not thinking to really go for it, a business idea, a different type of hobby, a travel, a gap year, whatever it may be, and people will talk to you as if you're gambling, and they'll tell you like, oh, that's too risky, you're gonna waste years of your life and money, and almost saying that these are things that you're never gonna get back and you're gonna lose for sure. And they're comparing it to if you go to a casino, and that is true, that if you keep playing and you keep putting more and more money, you're gonna ruin your life and you're gonna be broke, you're gonna be in a very, very dark place. But when you apply that to the rest of life, specifically things that are in a pursuit of something or somewhere greater than where you are right now, if it is to fulfill some passion you have inside, to improve your life, to scratch an itch that you can't quite describe, but you have to scratch, well, then we have a problem here. Because with such a fearful mindset, with such a fearful approach to life, we fail to recognize that it is not the same thing at all. At all. Because when you're gambling, the odds always remain the same and they're always against you. And so you are expected to lose and you will lose. But when you're in real life, and you're talking about a business or a hobby or, different project, a gap year, whatever it may be, it is quite different. Because here, even if the odds are against you, let's say you start your first business and you lose and whatnot, they don't always remain like that. Because as you do these things, and let's say as you fail, first of all, the worst that can happen is not that bad if you're not absolutely insane. Maybe you go a bit into debt and you have to work a shitty job for a few years after to pay it off. But, is it that bad? You're not dying. You're not, no mafia guy is going to come to your house to break your legs because you couldn't pay your loan. It doesn't really work like that, especially when you're young and you really don't have possessions. Like, what can be taken from you? Nothing. They're just gonna, you're just gonna have to pay it off over time. But that really, for the most part, is it. However, what you gain, even when you lose, is so valuable that if one looks at it correctly and really without all of these, preconceived ideas that people have or whatnot, you realize that you always win because either it works and your coffee shop or whatever business you start, whatever passion thing you start works, and then you're like, oh great, it works. And then, yeah, you have problems, but there'll be better problems. Or if it doesn't work, you learn. And for how cliche that may be, what one must realize is that in and of itself is so valuable that no amount of failure could ever, take its value away. Because what really is to fail, first of all? Well, it only is to fail if you fully give up. Because if you fail one business and start another, it works, or however many you have to go through, then it doesn't matter. And if you're just worried about people's perception, then it doesn't matter either, because then they're just gonna look at what is currently happening. But what's important about yourself and about what happens when you go through it is that you become a better person, fundamentally, a more experienced person, a more a capable one that had to go through all these steps of starting a business, getting a loan, learning how it works, paying the taxes, all of that. And so you become a much more capable individual. And so when you go through the rest of your life with that experience, well, you only really fail if you start listening to the negative thoughts in your mind. And if assume that this L on your forehead has to be there forever, or that it even exists. A lot of the problems that come from failure are just our perception of it. And so, in this manner, of course, you shouldn't gamble unless you are betting on yourself. Because when you're betting on yourself, there is no losing. There's either winning, meaning reality matches your expectations, or it doesn't, and you learn. And as you learn, you become more prepared for the next time. When you look at football or soccer for the Americans, there is a reason why you can't have a team full of promising youngsters or talented youngsters. It doesn't work. You need the seasoned veterans. You need the guys that have been there, that have won, that have lost, that have, been played, that some, play was done against them that made them lose and now they've learned from it. You need those people there. Because when things don't go according to plan, which they won't a lot of times, you need to be able to adapt, and you need to have that experience to be like, all right, it's not the end of the world, we'll overcome it. And in this manner, life is the same. I know we all would like to just be the promising youngster with all this potential. You go and right away you hit the jackpot and you can't miss, and you just, go up the steps and up and up. But life doesn't work like that. Even those that have those promising starts, look how many of them then face struggles later in life and then have to battle those things, but just after a promising start. Everyone has. You will have too. But going back here to the topic, because what we're really talking about is taking these risks and really having that courage and having that, emotional oomph or whatever you want to call it, to really say, you know what, I'm going to go for it. Because that's where the struggle is. Because when you're listening to your parents and to society and you're not sure, well, you're going to be pointed in the way of safety and of taking the safety way out. So if, let's say, you're a student, you finish university and you say to your parents, oh, I want to take a gap year. In most countries where this is not popular, your parents will likely tell you, oh, maybe you should wait on it. Maybe go to university and after, then you go take it. Or if you want to start a business, they'll tell you, oh, but you just got the job and it's so nice. Maybe build a few more money and then try to do it. The problem with these things is that they don't have an end. And if you listen to it, okay, you finish university, then they're going to tell you, but get a job first. And then you get a job first, buy a house first. It is always going to be like that. Because the people around you in society, whatever we want to call it, they're worried about your safety because they don't want to see you hurt. They don't want to see you fail it. People just don't want that. But you have to risk that, because if you don't risk that, then your life is going to be fundamentally miserable because you're never going to be doing what you want to do. And so here what we have to recognize is that there is a cost, there is a risk to anything. But that risk doesn't even compare to the pain of not taking the risk, because all of them are, in a lot of ways, the safety is avoiding death, avoiding the danger. But what one must recognize is that death is inevitable. And no matter how much you can avoid it for now, eventually it arrives. And when it does, the one that never takes a risk and that always plays it safe is going to realize just how much death he brought upon his soul. In a lot of ways, he died before death came for him. And so in this manner, you shouldn't gamble unless you're betting on yourself.